Welcome. Hey, Dan Miller here. I'm excited about sharing this time together with you where we're going to be talking about how to create work and a life you love with just 15 hours a week. Got my daughter Ashley on here with me to start us off, kick us off with a few little announcements. You know, to get us rolling here, we really need to just kind of have a little music to get us going.
Oh, yeah. Any of you listening to 48 Days to the Work You Love podcast, you might recognize this.
It's time for 48 Days to the Work You Love with Dan Miller.
Well, we aren't going to be doing a podcast today, but I love how familiar that tune is to a lot of people. The old Bachman Turner Overdrive, taking care of business. So we're going to be taking care of business today, but we're going to be looking at one particular aspect of how we're going to do this and how we're going to do this well. So welcome everybody. Ashley, get us kicked off here and we'll jump into our content.
Well, thank you. And welcome everyone. I am excited about this topic. So first and foremost, I just want to give you a few little housekeeping notes as far as what is going on over in the chat. First off, in the chat, because this is webinar format in Zoom, most of us are pretty familiar with Zoom at this point, but there is a drop down that says all panelists and attendees. If you select that, then your questions and comments will go to everyone versus just us panelists. And we'd love to see your questions and comments. Right now, what I would love to do is while I'm talking about this, go ahead and share with us in the chat. What would you do with an extra hour in your day? And this is our topic today. What would we do if we had some extra time? I hear this so often, we don't have the time, yet we all have the same amount of time in our day. So I'm excited to dig into what we can do to re-strategize what this time is. So, oh man, I love seeing the comments coming in here. Now, there's another bonus for sharing in the chat. This is a great place when you share in the chat to be able to share those key takeaways. This is often wonderful because in the replay, people can see in the chat what things really stood out for other people. And also be sure to ask your questions. I'm going to be looking through those while Dad is going through the presentation. I'm going to pull questions and I will hop back on the end with him in order to answer some of those questions. And one more incentive is I'm going to be looking in the chat, and those of you who are active in there, encouraging one another, asking questions, sharing takeaways. You guys are all going to be candidates for being a winner for a random drawing. And we are going to select one person to win this wonderful package below that Dan, aka Vanna, is showing off here. And this is the entrepreneurial package. What all will they win?
Well, today? We got No More Dreaded Mondays is in there. We've got Wisdom Meets Passion, book I wrote with your brother Jared. And we've got in there with the Rudder of the Day, just a little daily devotional people can go through. We've got in there how 48 low or no cost business ideas. Now we're going to reference this today. That's where a lot of people got their original ideas is out of that right there. So they'll get that. And of course, the brand new version of 48 Days to the Work You Love, the anniversary edition.
And one more little thing I know that dropped. Happens to be one of my little favorites. Leave room in your life for things that make your heart sing. Isn't that a beautiful just image to visualize, to start your day? What makes your heart sing? And are you making space for it? That right there is a perfect segue into going ahead and getting started with the presentation. How are we going to be making space for those extra hours in the day to move toward that life we thrive in?
I was in Michael and Gail Hyatt's house the other day, walked in the bathroom, and this was hanging on the wall.
Oh, wonderful. Cool. All right, well, I'm going to sign off. I will be over in the chat. I'll be looking for your questions and comments, and I'll hop back on with you at the end.
All right, and I'm going to switch to a presenter mode here so you can see what I'm seeing, and we'll get started with the presentation. Now, the questions I get asked most often these days are not really about how to build a better resume or how to improve the interviewing skills. I mean, plenty of you have experienced a lot of uncertainty in this last year. You know, the traditional work model has been shaken up. There's a whole lot of us who've been looking at new ways to be more in control of our time and our productivity and our income. And here's the thing, getting smarter is not necessarily the key. Getting more knowledge is not necessarily the key. A lot of people just drop what they're doing, go back and try to get another degree. We have to be careful with that because getting knowledge is one part of this process of changing your life, but it is only one part. So the real key is to have a clear sense of what it is you're going to do, and then dedicate these 15 hours a week to doing that. It's not about working another 80 hours a week. We'll talk about that some more as we go through, but it's not that. But if you use this structure, you can, in fact, move your life forward. So I want just to ask you, do you know that you're in the right place right now? I'm going to give you 3 possibilities, and then I want you to share in the chat which of these best describes you. So you're thinking, how can I possibly find time? I mean, it'd be great to start something new, but I'm already really busy. I'm raising a family. I'm involved in church and community. You'd love to act on a dream, but how could you possibly find more time? So that's one. Number 2 is, there's something else going on. I mean, we have people who contact us who are physicians, attorneys, dentists, pastors, oftentimes who say, I'm doing okay, but I know there's something more. There's something else that I should be doing. That may be you. So number 2, some of you are already putting your numbers in there. And number 3 is, I'm trying, but I'm just not making the progress that I want. So you're already maybe doing something, but just not making the progress that you want. So again, we've got a quick recap here. Number 1, how can I possibly find the time? Number 2, I know I was meant for more than this. Number 3, I'm trying, but I'm not making the progress that I want. Wow, we've got a lot of, oh my gosh, you're going so fast, I can't see them. Well, we got a lot of all of those. VJ says number 3, Danny says 2 and 3. Brent says number 2, Nick says 2 and 3. So we got a lot of combinations. Gerardo says 3. Wow. Oh, golly, I love the comments that you all are coming up with. Well, I want to start by assuring you that you can do this. No matter which of those best describes you right now, you can do this. If you use this formula, you can make a change. Now, I'm a fanatic about 48 days, where if you create a plan and act on it, you can change a trajectory of your life. Now, just for the sake of using real numbers here, we're going to have something tangible for our conversation. And we're going to say that you can be earning $4,800 in a 6-month period of time. Let's just make it real. Some of you will be doing more than that, and some of you will be working your way up to that, but we really think that's a realistic kind of number. So we're going to give you an exact formula that a whole lot of people have used to do that and more. And then if you stick around, we're going to make you a special offer to join us, join some of the people we're talking about here, and see what has made them even more successful. So most of you know me, Dan Miller. You probably know either through my podcast or books that are out there. I've been around quite a while, helping people to encourage them, giving them resources, like some of the resources I already showed here. These are some of my most popular books. I love getting people together to explore new possibilities. And yeah, even during this last year, this wild and crazy year we've had a whole lot of people who are finding they can thrive most, not by hoping the company gets back to the way it was, but by taking action on ideas that they have themselves. I grew up as a poor farm kid in Ohio, but I discovered some pretty fun ways to serve others, and to do pretty well along with that. I know what it's like to be scared when you're just starting off. And sometimes the process of stepping out, putting yourself in the driver's seat can be pretty scary and uncertain. I also know what it feels like to start with nothing, but start walking toward your dream anyway. Now, this is a shot. This is me in my first car. I grew up on that farm in Ohio. And when I turned 16, my dad didn't walk me down to the Chevy dealership and buy me a new Corvette. Believe me, he didn't have any money to spend on a car. Didn't think it was necessary. We had one family car. Why would we need another one? Well, that's not the way my mind thought. So I started with what I had. So I bought this. I paid $200 for this 1931 Ford Model A coupe that I got started tearing it apart, chopped and channeled, if you understand those terms. I got a blown engine. That's a 331 Chrysler Hemi engine. I pieced this together with mainly things I got out of a close by neighboring junkyard and just put it together. That's the way that I've always thought. Don't tell me I can't do it. I'm going to just start with what I have and work toward it. Incidentally, in 1963, Corvette came out with a split window Corvette. That was also when I turned 16. And oh, that was my dream. I mean, I was to drool thinking about Corvette. But of course, that was a whole lot of money. I had a friend whose dad was very wealthy, big contractor. He bought his son, Daryl, a brand new gold 63 Corvette split window. Daryl thought my coupe was really cool. We would trade on alternate weekends. I would drive that brand new Corvette. He would drive my old hot rod. Both of us thought it was a pretty cool trade-off. Well, I believe success is our own responsibility, not an organization, not a company. Plus, I've never been attracted to a model where I have a ceiling on what I can do. I mean, if we have a project, if it's painting a house, whatever it happens to be, I want to determine what is reasonable compensation for that, and then be left on my own in terms of how much time it takes me to do that. That's one of the ways you really open the door to leveraging what it is that you're able to do. Well, where do you start? I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a job. Many of you do. Now we're going to go through a formula that'll help you experiment with your own idea, even while you may have the additional income of having your own job. Now, believe me, I didn't say because you have the safety net or security of having a job. We know that's not true. There is no such thing as security in a job, especially here in 2021. You have far more security in your own venture if you start that. I mean, if you have a job, you essentially have one customer. If you lose that customer, you're in big trouble. If you have a hot dog stand down on a corner of a street in your town, you may have 250 people that come by on a given day and buy a hot dog. If you lose one, it's not really a big deal. So we're looking at these ideas that actually increase your security, certainly not decrease it. But I want to start right in with some myths that we may have around this idea of more success. One, we already touched on a little bit, I don't have the time. Two, maybe it's too late for me. You know, I talk to people who are in their 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s, of course, who think, well, it's too late for me. But you know what? I talk to people who are 27 years old who say, I shouldn't have majored in that in college. You know, they imply that they made a mistake and now they just have to kind of coast into the grave. Well, certainly we don't take that approach. It's never too late to have a new beginning. And we see a lot of people who, having had some great life experience, now know enough about themselves to ask the right questions and start in the most productive 20 years of their life. And then number three, a myth, I can do this on my own. Well, I mean, I want to be clear here. I did tell you that I believed 100% of you could create a side business or move toward your goal with 15 hours a week, but I don't believe that you can do it alone. I mean, there's really nothing that I've ever done where I've been totally alone. And we're going to come back to that as we go through this. But let's go through these again more deeply. Not enough time. Not enough time. I mean, 15 hours. Are you kidding me? And I have a family. I'm working full time. Where am I supposed to come up with 15 hours a week? Well, I want to dispel that one right up front here with this in our time together because it's so pervasive. I don't have the time. But you know what? You have the same time that Mother Teresa had, Gandhi, Bill Gates, whoever it happens, Richard Branson, we go on. We have the same amount of time. And here's what it is. We have 168 hours a week. If we start subtracting the things that we need to do, let's say you are working 40 hours a week. All right, we'll grant that. Let's say it takes you 10 hours to commute, 10 hours back and forth. You want to spend 4 hours in church, community activities. You want to sleep 8 hours a day. Be clear, we're not going to recommend here that you reduce your sleep to find the 15 hours. You can't be productive doing that. That's crazy. We want you to sleep until your body says you're totally rested. Maybe 9 hours, but let's go with 8 just for our little formula here. So that's 56 hours. We wanted you to continue that. Let's say you want to spend 10 hours for your family. So we've covered the big blocks there that we really want to continue to invest our time in those. If you do that and go through the hours that I have there, starting with 168, we're now down to 48. Well, that's kind of a cool number, as you know from me, but that leaves 48 hours in a week as discretionary time where you get to decide what is it that you're going to do in that period of time. How are you going to invest that time? You know, there are people like James Patterson, who we know is a very popular novelist. He wrote tons of books. He started writing books when he was a very busy executive. But he decided that he would show up in his office at 5:30 in the morning, lock his door, and spend 2 hours in the morning. That's where he got his 15 hours. Started writing books. And of course, he's gone on now to have hundreds of books, it seems, that he's got out there as a novelist. A lot of people started with just this small amount of time before they became so well known and famous. So this is the deal. I've discovered after working with thousands of people and testing new business ideas myself, I know it can be overwhelming. It's hard to know where to start. And depending on your personality style, you may spend too much time in any one area. That's why we have to be clear about the 4 areas that are so important. So I've developed a structure that'll help you determine how to allocate your time in the areas that allow you to build a successful business. So I fully believe if you can commit 15 hours a week to your idea development for the next 6 months, then you can be generating that $4,800 in revenue in 6 months. Again, I want to really make it clear. We're not talking about a side hustle. I really cringe at the use of that word. Hustle is not a very positive word. And I don't encourage people to do, this is not about stressing yourself out. I want you to continue to be calm, to have joy and pleasure and margin in your life, to do the things that matter, do things that are not adding to your finances at all. I mean, those are important things. That's why in the new version of 48 days, it's 48 days to the work and life you love. This is about a life that matters. And even during this period of time where you have these 15 hours, it's not about crushing everything down and hustling. I mean, hustle means to crowd or to push roughly. I looked up on the dictionary what it says: to convey forcibly or hurriedly, to sell something or obtain something with underhanded activity. We aren't hustling here at all to obtain money by fraud or deception. I mean, that's not what we want to convey here at all. So this is not a matter of making your life tense and with a lot of anxiety. Nope. This is a matter of calmly moving into a clear process where you can accomplish things that you may not have accomplished before. So here are these 4 critical areas for success. We'll unpack these a little bit more, but these are the 4 areas. I want you to divide your time between learning, building, creating, and marketing. And I'll give you examples in each of these. And you're going to hear exactly what Nick and Marianne and Carrie and Steve and Vincent and others have done to use this process to create significantly more than the income that we're talking about here today. And then, as I mentioned, we've got a special offer to allow you to join right in with the people that I just mentioned. You see some of them right there and more. So imagine what this means. Let's just take a minute to think about this. 6 months from today, what would that mean? What would it mean for you and your family? Let's say you're working a full-time job and you're making $100,000 a year, just to use a round figure, but you want something more. And so you start this process and you're generating $4,800 a month in addition to that, without increased stress and pressure and all that, $4,800. Well, that's $57,600 for a year. That's more than half of your income. What would that allow you to do? What would that give you the opportunity of doing? I mean, you could just give your family the extra income and just have more margin. I mean, you could decide that we're going to go on a vacation. We're going to go on a cruise this next year. You may want to put an addition, a den on your house. And there's a lot of things you could do with that. You might decide that you do want to quit your full-time job. I mean, if you're making $4,800 a month with 15 hours, just imagine what you could do with 40 hours. And we've had a lot of people who have done that, where in using these 15 hours to generate 50% of their current income, they then realize, wow, I see the trajectory. If I used part of that additional time, let's say that you used 25 of the 40 hours that you're now using. So you're back to 40 hours, but now it's fully in what it is you're doing, where you're in the driver's seat, where you have the upside potential there. You may decide that you want to do that. You may just decide you want to be creative, do things you want in life. You may work out new arrangements with your employer. We have a young attorney in our community who, in getting to the point where she was earning more from her side income than her job, she negotiated going to 3 days a week rather than 5. And her employer agreed to do that. Now, what happened in that case is that her side income grew so exponentially that she only did that for a few months and then quit and went full time in what she was doing anyway. A lot of possibilities, though, if you are in fact generating income. And this is a way that I've worked with people year after year. It's not just quit what you're doing, we'll figure something out. No, let's make a transition. Let's make a bridge here. A lot of you know Kent Julian, who is our Dean of Speaking in our Eagles community. But Kent's a very successful speaker. When he transitioned from being a director in his denomination, a youth pastor in his denomination, his wife, Kathy, was really concerned about his loss of income. He said, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to reduce my income at all. I'm going to wait until my side income from developing my speaking and coaching business is equal to my income before. And that's what he did. So he waited until he created that bridge. That's not uncommon at all. So imagine 48 days out from today. Now, 48 days from today happens to be June 9th. That means we'll be halfway through this year already, and almost that at least. So this is a great time to be planning for the rest of the year. Just imagine if you could spend 15 hours, if that quickly you got to that point. 48 days from today. I mean, I believe that's possible for a lot of you to be doing that. Now, there's no smoke and mirrors here. I mean, I'm going to introduce you to some people who have done exactly what we're talking about here to see how you can use that same model for your success. And I'm going to be able to also share with you some of the other principles that we are using in this community. I am going to recommend, of course, that you join us in the Eagles community. Again, I just don't know how anybody can do this alone. We all need a supportive community from which to gather resources. Research shows us that people who have peer support are 7 times more likely to succeed at their goals than people who try to do it on their own. I mean, there's an old saying, we use it around here a lot. You know, Jim Rohn actually said it, where he said, you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. We try to be pretty intentional about spending that time with people who are achieving at a level which we want to perform. That's just the way it is. So you can look at, what are you surrounding yourself with? Who are you surrounding yourself with? If you want to be healthier, you hang out with people who are eating well and exercising. You know, if you want to lose weight, you hang around people who have proven their ability to do that. So this is the same thing true here. If you want to be successful, find people who are already successful and hang out with them. So I'll talk more about this at the end of the masterclass when I'll show you some amazing things inside this community. Again, be reminded, Ashley and Sheila are watching your comments there. We've got this giveaway for somebody, this entrepreneur package. I want you just to start thinking about the mindset that you're developing where you can actually see this happening. And speaking of mindset, Marianne Renner. Marianne is one of the poster children we have for how to use this 15 hours a week. You may have seen her in the little Facebook Live that we did because she loves to talk about this. She was working for a company, and she still is. She built her side business exponentially by being very, very consistent and strategic about how she invested this 15 hours a week. And she now her goal this year is to bypass in her 15-hour work week the income that she's making as a highly paid executive in the company she's in now. Pretty lofty goal, and she's right on track to make that happen. I'm confident she can do that. But she says, I needed structure. Marianne said, I would come home at the end of the day, check the mail, grab a water from the fridge, scan through a couple of emails, have a bite to eat, gone. The evening was gone, and it was time for bed. I realized there actually was time, but that I just had to block it out in my calendar the same way I would block out any other important task or meeting. So she created a beautiful graph on her wall that showed exactly how she would be dividing those 15 hours on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Didn't do anything on Friday or Sunday, but she had other things that she did on those days. Some of you are probably thinking, you know, maybe like Marianne, you don't want to lose your current income. I mean, Marianne's single. She is aggressively working on some financial goals. She has 0 debt, including the mortgage on her house, but she was able to do it because of exactly what we're talking about now. And it's funny, she refers to the company that she works for as her biggest client. That's a different mentality. So mentality, mindset is a lot of what we're talking about here. Not having enough time is usually a mindset. It's more mindset than it is reality. You convince yourself. And if you say you don't have time, we draw into our life the things we talk about that we give verbal expression to. If you say, I'm so busy, guess what? You're busy. If you say, I don't have time, guess what? You don't have time. If you change that and recognize, I have choices to make here. I really can do this. And you can change that if you want to do that. So my goal today is to teach you my best information about using a small amount of time so you can apply your passion and create significant income in the process. I don't recommend 80 or 100-hour weeks, not at all. I mean, we hear that garbage out there. Elon Musk talks about 120-hour weeks. Well, he's done some things that are pretty fun to watch, but he's left path of destruction behind him in many ways that we don't want to model. You hear people like Gary Vaynerchuk talk about, work till your eyeballs bleed. You don't hear that talk around here. I don't believe in that garbage. Nope. I believe in using strategically the time that we have so you get to a point where you really are in the driver's seat. I mean, I'm in a coaching program myself where we talk about having free days, and our goal is to increase free days even as our income increases. The key is to spend that 15 hours consistently and then see what you're doing to know exactly what it is. So here's a breakdown. I'll stay here a little bit. Now, you also have a link to a worksheet that you got in your registration. So there's a worksheet that'll give you an opportunity to break this out much more thoroughly. You can do that on your own time after we finish our little time together here today. Incidentally, we're going to go for a little more than an hour with things I want to go through, and then questions that Ashley will come back on. We'll answer questions. I can see them piling up as we're talking here. But this is a breakdown, and you can, again, get that on the worksheet that you have. 3 hours where we do encourage you to spend that reading, studying, gathering new knowledge. Very legitimate. 3 hours in the learning category. What can happen is that people think they're starting a business, and 6 months later, they've gone to 3 conferences, they've listened to 70 podcasts, they've read 10 books, they've gained a lot of knowledge, and they've never put a penny in the bank. That's not a real business. The next area is creating. 5 hours on creating. What are you doing? You have to have something that people want. So it could be creating content. It could be writing your book or developing your course or coaching package or building furniture or baking bread or making candles or decorating cakes. Something. What is it that you're going to offer? A tangible something that people are going to see as having value. 5 hours. Now, this is just for when you're starting off. This is for this first 6-month period of time that can change as time goes on. But this is how I recommend using the 15 hours in the first 6 months. 4 hours working directly with clients and customers. Right out of the gate, what are you doing in this area? What are you doing to have people give you their money? If you're baking bread, then break a loaf this morning and get out there and meet somebody who's interested in buying that this afternoon. This is not a do one and then move on to the other. This is do all 4 of these right from day one. And then the 4th area, marketing your efforts to build your brand and reputation. What are you doing to let people know? I mean, you can have a fancy website and you can be really smart in a particular area, or have a product that is the next hula hoop or frisbee is really killer. But unless you're letting people know about it, it doesn't really matter. You don't have a business. So we recommend 3 hours that you do there. So this is a very, very clear overview. And you can do this whether you have a tangible product or whether you have an information product, whether you're going to be providing a service. Really anything you can plug into this. Now it's going to vary a little bit, of course, if you're building something physically, but overall you can use this model right here. Now we're used to learning. I mean, we really are. I mean, we put so much emphasis on learning. But I'll tell you, and I've been doing this a long time, sitting in classrooms to listen, regurgitate, and memorize. I mean, that's fine. That's admirable. We aren't going to diminish the value of that, but those skills won't put food on the table, and it's certainly not going to put a Mercedes in your driveway. It just doesn't. So be careful about over learning or spending too much time just adding knowledge. We want you to get that first dollar to convince yourself, us and everybody else, that you really are in business. I want to share a few stories with you here real quickly. This is Vincent. Vincent was a professional photographer. A lot of you probably know him, Vincent Puglisi. He was a sports photographer for 23 years. His salary as a newspaper photographer, photojournalist is what they're called when they stopped having one person write and one person take pictures. Then they expected one person to do them both as newspapers started to struggle. So he was being paid in the low $30,000 a year range. He came to one of our programs called Innovate at the Sanctuary in Franklin, Tennessee. We had a delightful time there with a whole bunch of other people. We got excited. He went back and he developed a course helping parents photograph the best sports pictures of their kids. You know, how to catch your kid just where the bat hits that ball that made a home run, or just when he kicked the goal that was the winning score in soccer. He just created a course, how to capture those kind of photographs. He released that on a Friday afternoon, which isn't a great time to release a course, and in 48 hours generated more money than he was making annually in his real job. I mean, that's the power of having an idea where you put legs on it. This is Steve. Steve's very active in our Eagles community. He's an intellectual property attorney. He offers a lot of tips to other people in our community, checklists, advice to members. He has a brand new course and a brand new book, Cracking the Patent Code, that he's proudly holding up there in just a recent shot. Now, not too long ago, I interviewed Kevin Harrington, and you may recognize that name as one of the sharks, one of the original sharks on Shark Tank. He's been at my place. He's been in my home, Kevin has, with an event that we did a couple years ago. Steve has followed Kevin Harrington's work and would love to connect with him as an attorney who helps inventors protect their inventions. Well, do you think that's possible? Well, sure it is. I mean, with connections like that, I mean, that's what we do in community. We're able to share resources and contacts. We hear that old adage, you know, everybody's 6 degrees of separation. It's not even that anymore. It's usually 2 or 3. And when you have people who are performing at the level which you want to perform, those connections, I mean, think about how that could propel what Steve is doing as an intellectual property attorney to be connected with somebody who sees new inventions every day. This is Carrie. Carrie, Golly, at the time that we first met them, they had a 3-year-old and a 4-month-old. Well, Carrie, as a new mother, she really wanted to stay at home. She had a full-time job. She really wanted to stay at home and take care of her children, but she also wanted to add some family income. So here's what Derek, her husband, wrote. He says, Carrie discovered voice acting and was instantly interested in trying it out. She booked a few sessions with the coach, and her coach was really impressed with her natural talent and her excitement. It turns out Carrie is really, really good. Carrie replaced her day job salary, working nights and weekends in just 4 months, and quit her day job. We just had Carrie and Derek on as Monday mentors to share their story and bring us up to date on what she's doing. Now, they were open about this, so I'm not saying anything out of school here. I wouldn't share this without their permission. But last year, she brought in over $200,000. Just last week, we highlighted in our Eagles community a commercial, a new McDonald's commercial promoting their new triple cheeseburger for $2.29. And it was Carrie's voice that did that. I mean, that's pretty cool to have people that we know that are doing those kind of things. Well, let me move on. This is Nick. Nick came to Coaching with Excellence event. He was an attorney in New York. His office looked down over Central Park. That was Nick's life. But he saw in his profession, there was a choice being made. Do you want a great family or do you want a great profession? He thought it was a choice. And that's what he had observed. He came to one of our events and saw, wow, is it really possible to have a great marriage along with a great profession? He went back home. He quit his position. They moved from New York City up to Massachusetts. He took a position as legal counsel for a smaller company at about half the salary and took 2 years to figure out exactly how to reposition himself. Nick now is a ghostwriter. He helps people. There are multiple New York Times bestsellers I could mention where Nick did the writing, the creating of that, the marketing strategy. That's what he does. And his income while taking that temporary dip is way beyond where he was initially. Now, here's what he says. Nick says, within 10 months of getting my first ghostwriting client, I was able to completely quit the practice of law and support a family of 4 in my income. If I had not joined 48 Days Eagles, I might still be practicing law, helping people, but not being fulfilled and moving my family forward with the vision for our future. All right, so let's get specific here. Plan out, what would you do if you needed to decide, how are you going to invest your time in these different areas? Now, you've got your worksheet there, but go ahead and give me an idea, even in the chat here, of what you can see yourself doing in maybe just one of these areas, what you could do to increase your learning, or to create a product, or to actually engage with people to get money from that. You may have something you're already doing. What is an idea that you've got that you think you could plug right into the model that we've got here? All right, I need to see your ideas there. You guys are talking about some of the people that I just shared and how encouraging that is. You know, sometimes when we do webinars like this, people wonder if they're just seeing a recorded webinar or if it's live. Well, believe me, it's live. Well, Jocelyn says speaking and facilitating. Tom says coaching, developing a product. Danny says get my book I wrote published. Awesome. Blake, I'm not sure. Lynn Levine, have husband cook her pizza night. All right. Kim says she needs to learn to sell herself. Golly, great ideas. Virtual speaking on my book. My wife and I want to start a bakery, Ricardo says. Guy, I love the ideas. I love those. Anything that you've shown there are things that we could plug right in here to this model. So again, if you haven't done it yet, you can go there and download your worksheet. And this is what it's going to look like. This is what you're going to see there. Sheila on our team has put together this beautiful worksheet that you've got, but it gives you space to start mapping out exactly what this is going to look like for you. You can make a schedule in the worksheet. So like Marianne, you write down, when is it that you're going to do this? So here we've got like between 6 and 7 o'clock, gaining new knowledge, between 12 and 1 o'clock, working with clients. These are just examples. You make your own. You can do it, a lot of it on a couple days if you want to, or spread it out over the period of a week here. We don't care, but it's just a clear model for what you can do. Write it down. If you schedule it, put it on your calendar like another appointment, then you've made a commitment and you can really stick to it. So you may decide that you want your reading, your studying to be on one particular night. When I'm doing things, now I reserve, as an example, I have Thursdays and Fridays where I typically have no appointments at all. This is an exception, being on a Thursday when we do these webinars, but typically I have no appointments on Thursday or Friday. Those are what I call deep work. Those are days where I'm creating content. Those are days we've got a lot of other things in place, and I'm dedicating all my work time to my work here, not just 15 hours a week. So on Thursdays and Fridays, those are writing days for me. I look forward to those, like, pecan pie after you eat your Brussels sprouts. I really do, but that's part of my structure for how I make this work. So let's dig a little bit deeper here into these categories of how you spend your time. So the first one we had there was reading, studying, gathering new knowledge. How are you going to do that? So you can jot down the things that you're going to do. These are blanks that you'll see on your worksheet. These are just examples where you write in, what are you going to do to increase your knowledge? Well, we have courses. You might read a book, one that I wrote or somebody else. There's lots of things that you have access to out there. What are the kind of things that you could do to increase your knowledge? Again, be sharing in the comments there. Laura liked my comment, like eating pecan pie after the Brussels sprouts. Yep, that's really what it feels like. Believe me, is exactly that. Then we got creating content, working on your book, your course, product you're making. I mean, you might decide that you're going to develop an invention or a new game. This is a third of your time. This is 5 hours that we've got here. You might decide, like John Niemeyer, who is also an attorney, he and a friend, when the Enneagram came out as such a popular profile, he and a friend sat down and they developed the Ennea game. So it's a game based on the 9 different personality profiles in the Enneagram, and based on who you are, that shapes the answers you provide. It's a delightful game. They just put this game together. Well, This was something, I mean, just totally outside of their normal work, obviously, but they had wanted to have fun with it, which they did. And they put it up on Kickstarter as a project. They put up as a goal $10,000 to fully fund this, which would then commit that they would move forward in actually developing and producing this product. $10,000. They put it up. It was fully funded in 29 minutes. 29 minutes to reach that goal. By the time they pulled it down and actually did go to production, they had 2,286 backers who had pledged $56,888. That's the kind of things that we love seeing in here. I mean, just take a moment to jot down what it is you're going to do to create content. I mean, Vincent Puglisi had to create his course. He had never done that before, but he put together that content for helping parents take great shots of their kids. You have some other area of expertise. It could be Carrie Olson. She had to develop the demos for her voiceover work that she does so successfully today. If you're Mark Ross, Mark is a coach and an artist. Mark puts up these beautiful, beautiful paintings in our community. He also does it on Facebook and other places, social media. People comment, they ask about it, and he sells those. I mean, just creating content. Boom. What is it you're going to do? I mean, if you're Eric Johnson, he's our podcast talent coach. And if you take your passion, and he's taking his passion for podcasting, offers coaching packages on starting and running a profitable podcast. So those are the kind of things you can do. Again, you can share your comments on what it is you're going to do in creating content for what it is you're going to bring to life to make money for you. So there's a third area, earning money. This, we dedicate 4 hours working directly with clients and customers. What are you doing to actually work with clients and customers? Again, until they are giving you money in your hand, you may have a hobby, but you don't really have a business. So we go very, very quickly to how can you engage with people? Just like what I shared there with John Niemeyer with the Enya game. I mean, they got money before they developed the product. They got money to fund their development, manufacturing cost and all that. So you may have a cool idea you could do even like that. So here's some ways that you can engage with people. I mean, go to Rotary, reach out to at least 3 people, call 3 people, ask how you can serve them, interact with people. I mean, get out there and connect with people. Don't spend your time just behind a book or behind your computer screen. Get out there and engage with people. So the last area then is marketing efforts. What are you doing to communicate and build your brand? What are you doing to let people know about that? I mean, you may have a really great product or service, but if no one knows about it, you don't really have a business. I mean, we have a special category in the Eagles community where Eagles can reach out for help on building a website, creating a logo, what marketing works. And there are a lot of competent people in that community who are more than willing to share their expertise and help you along. Now, you may not have a lot of people around you right now who are cheering you on. This idea that you can have your own business, create your own income. People who are on the same path as you are the very first ones to reach out and encourage you. I mean, I lived in Nashville, Tennessee for 30 years. We have a lot of people that come there who are very talented musicians. And you know what? It takes about 30 minutes on the street for them to run into other musicians to say, hey, it'll never happen. You know, you can't do it. You'll never be a Taylor Swift or Carrie Underwood or Luke Bryan. Can't happen. You know what? Talk to somebody who has done well. Talk to Luke Bryan. He won't say it can't be done. He'll say, yeah, man, you can rock and roll. You're awesome. You can do this. People who have done it encourage you. People who haven't done it will tell you it can't be done. Just be really clear on that dichotomy there. So let me ask you, are you ready? I mean, tell us here in the chat, who here is now ready to start building an idea on your own? I mean, show me a big yes or something to indicate, let's go. All right. Well, golly, Kim, Jenny, a whole lot of you, Michael, Petra, Chad, Ryan. Yes, let's roll. Lou. All right. Well, tell me what has been the most helpful thing that you learned today so far. What in here has really kind of triggered your belief that you could do this? Ready in spirit, but not an idea. Breaking out the 15 hours into sections. Encouragement, success is my responsibility. Encouragement that it's possible. structuring the time, seeing others in the same boat. Awesome. All right. Awesome. Okay. So can I get a yes from you if it's okay for me to tell you a little bit more about the one thing that all these success stories had in common? All right. Thomas, thanks. Jenny, Tom, Nick, Valerie, thank you. All right. So here's what I want to show you. As you can see, we have a lot of success stories to share, and there's a lot of variety in the kind of things that people have done. But you can also see that no one really achieves their success alone. We need the skills of others to complement our own. I'm sure I'm pretty competent in some of the things that I'm covered, but I've always had help along the way. Back in 2002, I had just started selling, loose term there, providing to my Sunday school class the 3-ring binder with the principles for 48 days in there. And I saw a promotion from Mark Victor Hansen for Megabook University that he was going to do in Los Angeles. Now, it was $695, as I recall. So it'd be twice that to take Joanna and travel expenses. But this guy, Mark Victor Hansen, is co-author of Chicken Soup for the Soul. So I thought, this guy knows how to sell books. If I'm going to do something with this 48 days, I had to go to this. And so I talked to Joanna. I said, babe, let's go to this. She said, okay. So I tapped my buddy Dave Ramsey on the shoulder. I said, you got a brand new book too, Financial Peace. You're selling out of the trunk of your car. Why don't we go to this and figure out from this guy how to sell books? Well, we both did. We went, took our wives, Sharon and Joanne, with us, sat there for 3 days and just absorbed what this kind gentleman had to share with us. We both came back and have done pretty well since then. I came back in the next 30 months. I sold over $2 million worth of that 3-ring binder with the original version of 48 Days to the Work You Love there. Now, could I have done that on my own, like so many authors try to do? I don't think so. I'm not patient enough to wait that long to figure it out on my own. I want help from people around me. Always. That's always how I've approached this. How can I reach out to people who are already doing what I want to do and learn from them to shorten my learning curve and increase my income much quicker than I could do on my own? So this is what we've got. This is what we've got. This is probably going to surprise you. So you have access to our Monday Mentor trainings. We have a library of resources, a lot of things that you can already download in there and use. There's a weekly live chat with our advisory board members. There's a monthly all access call, access to coaches, mentors in there. We have seeded people with high levels of expertise as mentors. People who are willing to share their expertise with others who are coming along as well. And those people are learning as well. Those people are paying members just like everybody else. I mean, we don't have anybody in there who's just grandfathered because there's a superstar. No, everybody just pays because everybody's learning in there. There's digital products that we have. There's a private podcast channel, and that comes to you everything for just the $48 a month. All of that is $48 a month. Now, let me go through a couple of these things again. We communicate within Mighty Networks. This is a template. It's a closed group. It's not like Facebook where there's so much other things being shared there. This is a private community that we have. All of our members are inside this private community. Everything you see there has been created by somebody in our community. So there's no intrusions, no distractions, nothing else. It's all content. Things are archived in there in particular areas. Like you see at the bottom there, artists, coaching, speaking. There's all kinds of groups that have formed in there. You get access to all of those. This happens within Mighty Networks. As I mentioned, we have these weekly Monday Mentor calls. We have some of the most delightful people in there. This last week, I had Shauna McGreevy in there as Monday Mentor. Shauna was an artist as a little girl, enjoyed art, but as she came up through school, of course, people told her, like well-meaning people do, well, that's fine as a hobby, but you can't make a living with art. So she went to college and got a degree in teaching, education. So she was a school teacher. Well, then she started having babies, had 4 babies pretty close together. And she said, I want to be home with my babies. Well, she was fortunate in being able to do that. Her husband was an engineer. He had a great job. So she stayed home with the babies. Well, in staying home with the babies, you want to have a really special birthday, not just an ordinary one. So she would bake this amazing cake, and then the neighbors would comment. Pretty soon she was doing videos about how she was making those and sharing those on YouTube and Facebook. And she has now, so at this point, I've turned the clock way ahead here. She now has a community of just cake bakers. She gets paid big bucks for her coaching individually to moms and others who want to either make and sell cakes or just be a superstar in their own family. They've done 2 cruises, Cake Crazy cruises, where they've gone. But these are the kind of people that we bring in on Monday. You see Jesse Cole there in the yellow tuxedo. Jesse holds Savannah Bananas, an outrageous baseball team in Savannah, Georgia. He fills a stadium with 4,000 people, where a pro team previously was getting 200 or 300 spectators to come in. These are people who can inspire, they inspire me. I bring in people who inspire me in there. Well, as I mentioned, access to our digital resources, including Who Are You, Why Are You Here? There's an audio training that Joanne and I did together on living, loving, and learning how you can thrive in your marriage, even while you're doing something as unpredictable, spontaneous as having a business on your own like this, how to create a family vision statement, podcasting. There's a whole lot of things in there. There are the live chat hours that where you can chat with advisory board members. Access to the members, as I've mentioned, access to the mentors rather, as I've mentioned a couple of times, we have people in there. I mean, we have people in there who are PhDs, they're professional coaches, they're attorneys, doctors, accountants, health and fitness professionals, veterinarians, pharmacists, there's just people with every application in terms of what they're doing that you could possibly imagine in here. Now, this is pretty new. We've added an Eagles hotline where we have a live person, one of the people in our coach training program. So they rotate through that, but they're available for live calls anytime between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Monday through Saturday. That's pretty new, and it has been a really awesome success. You also have access to the 48-day, the Eagles Nest, as we call it, small groups that go deep into one area of expertise. Now, pay attention to this because those are going to open up. I'm going to tell you what they are here in a minute, but those are going to open up tomorrow morning. These are going to open up. And when these open up, I mean, it's a race to the finish because these are 10 groups that we do 4 times a year. Now, the content of the groups change, but they're 10 groups, and we open those up, and they're open to like 20 people, and we max those out, but those fill up really, really quickly in these particular areas. And we have, okay, again, obviously all of this for 48 months or $48 a month. This is where you can sign up. We'll keep this going over in the chat. You can go there right now and see that you can join us, 48dayseagles.com. Join. Now here's a recap again. This is kind of an overview of what we've gone through. All these things are included. There are a lot more things there. You can find out from members. A lot of our members are on the call today. I see a lot of familiar names here. Elizabeth Fisher, there's Ryan Stour. There's a whole lot of people on here who are in here. They come back for things like this as well because they're continuing this process of learning and growing. Now here, I want to throw something out there we haven't talked about yet. Would you be willing to invest $4.80 to try this for a month? Here's the way we've got this set up. If you join in the next 48 hours, you can try this Eagles community for just $4.80 for 30 days. And now there's 48 hours, so we're talking Saturday. If you jump in here, make a decision, get in here by Saturday, you're also going to get not only a month for $4.80, you're also going to get a couple special bonuses. You're going to get that 48 low and no cost business ideas. You're going to get that. That's been the origination of a lot of things that people have taken ideas and gone on from there. Don't need a lot of money. You just need a clear idea and a plan of action. This is 10 side business. This is hilarious. These are real ideas. I mean, there's one guy in here, young guy, who collects horse manure on property where they encourage him to collect it because they like to get rid of it. There's so much. He bags it and sells it, goes into the city and sells it out of the trunk of his car. So there's ideas, again, simple ideas where people can get started with the things they're doing. Incidentally, you don't even have to have your own original ideas. We have a lot of resources. I mean, you can be a tutor, an English tutor, and you can start with that as your side biz. There's a whole lot of things you can do where you just become available to provide a service to start your own business, even if you don't have an original idea. Well, and also you're going to get, everybody will get an autographed copy of 48 Days to the Work You Love, the brand new 20th anniversary edition. I've updated every 5 years. So this was updated in 2020. I'm making notes already for the updates that'll be there in 2025. I mentioned the Eagle's Nest. I want to just give you a quick, since that's something that's going to be starting, well, really in just a little bit more than a week. Again, we're going to open the door to these tomorrow morning. Get started on that. Here's some of the topics that are going to be covered in there. Who am I? Why am I here? You can see the things there, how to present well on video. Got the Purpose Mastermind Mindset Nest. Start and grow your email list. First year of podcasting, your business is ministry. We have a lot of people in our community who have a heart of service. We encourage that. How can you serve people well through ministry and service and still thrive financially? Selling on Amazon, those are all the things. So here's the deal. Here's the recap. Now it's up to you. It's time for you to decide that you're going to be the one who transforms, who changes your life. If you've been sitting on the sidelines, listening to my podcast or reading my newsletters, I want to remind you that deciding is still a decision. Deciding to wait is a decision. You're making a decision to just keep things as they are. And now here's the truth about starting a business or doing something that can significantly change your life. Everything you need to know is available online. Again, if it were just knowledge, you can get that. You really can. So why would I go to the work to present this seminar? Why are we wasting our time doing this? Because I know from my own experience, when I get involved in an event or coaching program, I'm not investing in the information. I'm getting access to other brains and talents to encourage me and hold me accountable. What you're investing in here is not just information. You're investing in me as your mentor. You're investing in having access to a community of people who will not only help guide you, but will support you and cheer you on. So just imagine, what was your life going to be like 6 months from now? What will you be missing out on if you don't take action and join us? It only takes $4.80 to find out. Hey, before we just go into questions here, you know what? I'm going to stop my screen share and go back and have Ashley join me, because we want to give away that entrepreneur pack that we talked about. So we want to give that away to whoever has been decided is our winner for today. Again, that box of goodies that I've got here. Ashley, I know you've been hammered with everything going on there.
Oh my goodness. There have been such great questions. The reason it took me a minute, I was reading, Brent just said in here, and Brent did not share it with the whole chat, but I wanted to share it here. He said, my wife, Sarah, and I gave our young daughters $48 for a summer book report for reading 48 Days. Wish I had read your book for the first time when I was 13. Thank you, with gratitude. And I know Ryan is listening in with his 11 and 12-year-old right now. That is one of the things I love about the 48 Days community, is that we really celebrate, again, that life that you love, and we celebrate family. We invite, hey, if you have young kids that are interested, have them listen in on this. We encourage that for sure. We want to keep that entrepreneurial spirit regardless of what profession you're doing, just helping you understand how you can be your own boss and create that life you thrive in, regardless of your age. So I love that.
Your daughters were on the call this last Monday when Shauna McGree was talking about cakes. They're all into that. They can get involved. That's a cool thing. You can have a 10-year-old who starts doing something like that.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. There's so many great questions. I tried to kind of compile. We've got a few with some common themes here. So I wanted to go ahead and jump into this. So the first thing has to do with being multi-passionate. Roy says, I enjoy traveling, photography, outdoor activities, and vintage cars. How can I make all those into a business? And Richard says, my worry is that what makes my heart sing is variety, but business is often just a fast path to boredom and burnout when narrowing down and focusing. So let's talk about this. I've got too many passions. How do I narrow down? What do I do?
That's an awesome starting point, but that's what it is, a starting point. I mean, I love creativity. We love hearing from people who have lots and lots of ideas. But if you're spread thin, it's hard to be successful in anything. So my encouragement is to, yeah, have a list of 20 things that you know you could do that you would possibly even enjoy, but then narrow those down based on what you know about yourself to 3 or 4 ideas. You can do this in a very short period of time. I mean, talk about 3 days or something. Make a list, narrow it down to 3 or 4, do a little bit more research, choose one and act. That doesn't mean the others wouldn't have worked. Doesn't mean you wouldn't have enjoyed the other ones. But if you're going to really get traction, you have to focus in on something that you're going to do. You may come back to one of the other ideas at another time in your life. That's cool as well. I mean, I enjoy cars. There was a time for me when cars was really my primary source of income. At this point, I love cars, but it has nothing to do with creating income. It's just a hobby.
And that's such a great thing to just keep in mind. Oftentimes we do hesitate because we still are holding on to that traditional thinking that we're going to be in the next job for 30 years. That's not the case. And quite honestly, I can attest to the fact that I have worked in the profession of working with 48 days for 16 years now. And even in my 16 years, the variety that I have had within this one job is quite vast. And I have done everything from shipping and packaging up things and creating content and product development to customer service to leading webinars to doing all of these different things. And so even when you do get that one, you get an area of focus, it's amazing what variety you can add in. So when you want to get great at something, you can't be that jack of all trades, master of none. You have to narrow it down to one thing, but it doesn't mean everything else is eliminated permanently, for sure.
And James is asking a coattail question. Can I start one, and once it gets successful, turn it over to someone to manage it and start a next? Absolutely, you can. When I start an idea, as you know well, Ashley, I usually look at it as a 2 or 3 year experiment. 2 or 3 years. I never look at something and say, wow, 20 years from now, I'll be doing, nah, things change. Opportunities pop up too spontaneously to be locked into something. I don't want that, but 2 or 3 years, focus on one thing, get it going. And then you have the options. You can sell it. You can hand it off to somebody else, have them manage it or whatever. Just stop and go on to the next idea.
Okay, and then from there, Tom is asking, how do you maximize your time related to energy? I think this is a great one to address too. And we talk about time management. I mean, when do we do this? Do we do it at the beginning of the day? Do we do it after? When's that perfect time to get this done?
If you are having to work it in around an ordinary work day, I personally would go for early morning hours because that's when I'm an early morning guy. Love the early morning, and that's when I'm most productive. And also that's when it's least likely to interfere from family time. So usually for people, it's going to be the early mornings, and then maybe like Saturday morning as a block of time to get this up and running. Again, this is for a period of time. I mean, most people don't continue the combination for a long period of time, frankly. Most people, when they get an idea that really has some legs and takes off, they see pretty quickly when they can transition fully to that new idea.
And yeah, an easy one would be starting off first thing in the morning, but there's an element of recognizing just as you bringing awareness to when are you feeling most energetic? When are you feeling like you are, you've got a lot of great ideas? Capitalize on that. Sometimes we get disconnected just with our own energy and how we function and thrive, and just taking a little bit of time to paying attention to, boy, I'm feeling really energized right now. Take note of that, and you may find out you've got a sweet zone spot at some point during the day that really works well for you. So pay attention to that and know that this is something that flows.
You know, if we were going to give away our package, we jumped right into questions and didn't do
We
it.
did. Okay. Well, you know what? Let's go ahead.
I don't want to artificially bait people. No, let's give away the prize package.
All right. This prize package is going, the entrepreneurial startup kit there is going to go to Laura Shortridge. First off, thank you for all of the wonderful comments. And second off, congratulations on your 43rd wedding anniversary. You are getting so close to 48. Of course, we always celebrate very big. We had a big celebration for Mom and Dad's 48th wedding anniversary. Absolutely. Thank you for your input and all the feedback you've been giving in the chat.
Awesome. All
right.
You got a couple other questions?
Yes, I do. Okay, so now I've got 2 more sets of ones that are lumped together here. John says, do you recommend specific resources for entrepreneurs with ADHD? We tend to need a lot of structure. And Jay Glad kind of added on that, do we seek a life coach or career coach to help stick to our committed time slots? So what if we have ADHD or we struggle with something that really is it's hard for us to stay focused and on track?
Yeah. The best thing there is to create a structure. So you don't just get up every morning and address the squeaky wheel. I mean, that will really just keep you following the squirrel, so to speak. I mean, most entrepreneurs have some level of ADHD. I mean, look at Richard Branson. He's really open about that, but he says he doesn't think he would be able to accomplish what he has without that. So see it as an asset rather than a detriment to start with. But then be clear about your time commitments. I work with a schedule. Even though I'm an entrepreneur, nobody looking over my shoulder, I don't clock in, clock out. I have a schedule. I have a lot of things that I want to do every week. And so they just appear on my schedule. I mean, I can go right now to the 3rd week in October and tell you exactly what I'm going to be doing that week because it's already on my schedule. That helps with those of us who have ADD tendencies. Just create a structure and then discipline yourself to follow that.
For sure, yes. Even Marianne talks about that. She shares that a lot of times that the schedule gives her the structure, which gives her the freedom to have the flexibility.
Just commented, freedom resides in the structure, in the schedule. That's right.
Yes.
It doesn't create an oppressive overview or restriction. It frees you up then to know what you're going to do. Just like my writing days on Thursday and Friday. Wow. I don't let anything else interfere with that. If somebody says, gee, I want to get together for lunch, I'm sorry, I've already got a commitment. So it's that kind of commitment. And when you decide in advance, it makes it easy to make things happen.
Yeah. And let me add the caveat too, that we're not saying schedule every single second of your day, because that is something that can be really hard and unsustainable, because the instant you have the random curveball of life or that random little child that comes in with a need, it's an emergency, it's going to change everything. So when we talk about doing this, we're talking about these key anchors, those things that you anchor into your day as a priority. Those you do work around, and that's what can help you to have that structure. So look at those big things that are really important and prioritize those and make sure those are on your schedule. All right. Another question here is, I have multiple skills okay, so we kind of covered that one already. Let me go down here. Lynn's asked, how many hours a week would it take to be a part of this Eagles community? And then Laura asked, what category would the Eagles community fall into? So when we were talking about applying our 15 hours, how can we frame exactly what the 48 Days Eagles community is? And just in reference to some of the other chats here, and how this is not just a time suck of us just getting lost in knowledge or lost in social media and engaging and not going forward.
That's a great question.
I do want to add also, if this question, go back, anyone who's listening to this replay, read some of the comments, because we've had multiple Eagles that have answered in their own personal story as to what the Eagles community has done for them. That's over in the comment section also. So wanted to add that in. Go ahead, Dad.
All right. I would recommend an hour a day, Monday through Friday in the Eagles community. That's 5 hours, but that's going to be some getting new knowledge. That's going to be some getting the help of other people for creating your product. It is very likely to be that you will find customers within the Eagles community. We see that a lot. There's a lot of cross-pollination. People that are buying the products of one person, people that are providing the services, people get known for their area of expertise, and they're engaged by other members. So I would spread that across those 4 areas, but dedicate about an hour a day, knowing that those are investments that fall in the 15 hours. That's not in addition to, because being in the Eagles community is not just, social chit chat. It's not scanning through Facebook. That is because you are building a business, and that's part of it.
For sure. All right. Petra asks, all I need is major marketing advice. Is it worth it?
Major marketing advice.
Can you get any marketing advice in the Eagles community? Eagles, anybody listening in on this? Why don't you write that in the chat? Can you get marketing advice from this community? What other things are you getting from this community? as we're answering these questions, I love, one of my most favorite things about these webinars is simply seeing what all our Eagles are saying in the comments and how
Yeah,
much
me
fun
too.
they have on these, because we always invite our Eagles to be a part of everything we're doing in the larger community as well. So it's not just us, but you really are hearing from others in the community.
Well, as to her question, Petra, and I love that name. My gosh, there's an old Christian rock band named Petra years and years ago.
Mm.
She's probably familiar with that. But will you get marketing help? Yeah, absolutely. If there's one thing that we stress more than anything else to our beginning entrepreneurs, it is marketing. It doesn't matter how great your website is, doesn't matter how great your product or service is, how wonderful your muffins taste, unless you have a clear method of marketing. Now, like here's somebody that Lowell Lane, who is a member, just did last week. He started a chapter in his town, Joplin, Missouri, of 1 million cups. 1 million cups. If you look it up, it's a well-known program, chapters all over the country, and people get together, business people, to share their ideas. He organized a chapter. What that means, there's no cost to participate. And what that means is the local community, the local media promoted that. So he had a lot of people show up right here, even with some people still concerned about getting together. He had a lot of people show up. Well, he's the organizer. Do you think people are going to want to know what he does in business? You better believe it. That's a brilliant, brilliant marketing tactic to do something like that. That's just one of course, thousands of ideas, but those are the kind of ideas that are shared in the community. Yes, you need to know how to market. And if you're a coach, you're going to learn from other coaches how to, if you're a speaker, you're going to learn from other speakers. If you have a physical product, if you're a window washer, you're going to learn from other people what they're doing, because we share generously. This is not competition. This is collaboration.
Okay, I'm going to try to summarize a few of the other things that have been commented in one final wrap-up question here. And that is, there's questions as far as, can I actually start and keep a business? Can I run a business? Or should I start something on my own? Or should I find something that's already out there? Is this just for entrepreneurs who are building their own business? We've talked a lot, even in the Eagles community this year, about the different types of entrepreneurial spirits that are out there, and how some of those people who have an entrepreneurial spirit of seeing big visions, knowing that they are their own boss and having big ideas, doesn't necessarily mean that every single person has to build their big empire. So tell me, or go ahead and share a little bit, just as our final wrap up. Is there a specific demographic? Do you have to be, over 50 to join the Eagles? Or do you have to be a specific entrepreneur building my own business from scratch? Are there young people, old people, entrepreneurs, and people that are in traditional jobs? Who is in the Eagles community right now?
Yeah, we have a broad spread. Age-wise, how old is Dallas Demmett? Isn't he 88?
Man, I think he's, oh shoot. If anybody knows, or Dallas, if you're in here and I think I feel like he might be, although I was kind of questioning if it was closer to 90, but he's 88 years young.
All right. Anyway,
yes.
he's a very active member. I just had him come to mind. And
right.
down, I mean, we have teenagers, we have homeschool kids who are in here. So age is not the criteria by which we determine if you're going to be successful or not. It's mindset. Are you a person who, like we described here today, do you have the mindset to believe and take action? That crosses a lot of demographics in terms of where you are currently, what you're doing currently, professions, academic background, and all that. But that's the common denominator that goes all the way through. Mm-hmm. Now, her question seems to imply, do I need to be that aggressive, domineering, opinionated, high pressure salesperson? No, not at all. We have people who are very introverted and shy. People who are terrified of being on stage in front of people. You don't have to change how God has gifted you at all. But in understanding yourself, which we focus on a lot too, then you can identify what kind of business fits me. If it's something where you don't want to be out there knocking on doors, you don't have to. Let's create a product line that's so appealing that you do your marketing in ways where you don't connect individually with people. And when I talk about marketing, again, I talk about, speaking at the Rotary Club, you don't need to do that if that doesn't fit you personally. So the real key is what fits you personally, and let's embrace that in 48 Days to the Work You Love, I talk about 85% of the process of having a confidence of proper direction comes from looking inward first. This is true in our community. Look inward. That's going to tell you what the 15% is. That part, what kind of business fits you.
And if that's something that you're questioning and you aren't really sure if it's a good fit or where to go from here, keeping it in mind, for $4.80, you can try it out this month and see. And this happens to be a pretty ideal month because with it being right here on an Eagle's Nest, you get the opportunity to go into those deep dives. My Eagle's Nest happens to be on this specific topic of who are you and why are you here? And I talk about that 85% of the process, and that's the focus of my Eagle's Nest. Those are just some of the things that we offer on a regular basis in the Eagles community. All right. Well, that's that. I've summarized enough of our questions there. Of course, I've got a long list. We could continue on forever, but hopefully we've covered enough to give you guys a clear understanding of not only some tips on what you can use to move forward with just being intentional about your time and setting this time away. I mean, this is not just for building a business, but what if you took those 15 hours and you said, I want to be a better father or mother, or I want to be a better spouse, or I want to give more to my community? What other things can you do when you're intentional with your time and moving forward and growing? We hope this gives you just a little taste of what all you can get in the Eagles community to encourage and support you in all areas of your life.
All right.
All right.
That a wrap?
All right. That's a wrap.
All right.
We are good.
Hey, thank you
All
all
right.
for being on here. We've got a whole lot of people on here, and I appreciate you sticking with us. I hope it's inspired you and giving you encouragement, regardless of what your decision is, but recognize you are in the driver's seat to make those choices. We aren't victims. We aren't controlled by what's happened in the last year, what the government's doing, who's in the White House. You make the decisions about the kind of life you want to live. So we'd love to join you in that process. Thanks for being here.